From the center of the universe, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, this is the SDM Show with your host, Rob Cairns. The SDM Show focuses on business, life, productivity, digital marketing, WordPress, and more. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite drink, and enjoy the show. Here is Rob.
Hey everybody, Rob Cairns here. I'm the founder, CEO, and Chief Digital Strategist at Stunning Digital Marketing. Today I have both Laurie and Betsy from the Pursu agency with me, and we're going to talk about transparency in running your agency. Sit back, relax, enjoy it. The SDM show is brought to you by Stunning Digital Marketing, the digital marketing concierge that helps you put all your marketing pieces together. We are your marketing experts. We are also your WordPress security experts and know how to lock down a website and protect yourself from bad actors. So contact us at Stunning Digital Marketing today. Hey everybody, Rob Cairns here. And today I'm here with Laurie and Betsy of the Pursu agency. How are you ladies today?
We're doing good.
We're doing great. It's a
Well,
Monday. We need to get the week started.
yeah, it's always that way. You know, it's funny. We were just chatting before the show, which I do with most guests. I was thinking, geez, we should have just recorded half of it and released it out. You know,
Hey, you can always edit everything, right?
yeah, the power of editing and what goes and what doesn't. So I like to start shows off. First of all, thanks for joining me today. I like to start shows off.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, you're welcome. It's such a pleasure. On how did you both get into this wonderful world of WordPress design and WordPress space, and what dragged you in here? Let's start with Betsy.
Yeah. Well, I've always been creative as a little girl. My favorite thing to get was a box of crayons. Heck, it's still my favorite present ever. It's a fresh box of crayons, and I've just been designing and creating ever since. I ended up getting a degree in communication design from the University of North Texas and ran with it. Once I met Laurie, that's when I sort of got into the website world, and we saw how well like the design and branding side of things meshed with
Yeah.
the website side of things, and our powers combined made a much better website. So that's how I got into it.
Yeah, Laurie? You,
Yeah, mine's a little different. I went to Indiana University, got an accounting and computer information systems degree, and ended up getting my graduate work in HCI, human computer interaction, when you should see my usability books from, I won't age myself, but it's when it was starting to be a coined term. And I just have a really good eye for design and usability. So just started learning WordPress years ago, and Betsy and I got connected on another agency that I was helping. She was fully integrated with this agency at the time, and I think she and I connected because we both had white German Shepherds,
Yeah.
and somehow just conversation steered from computers to dogs, and that was somewhere around 2012, 2013 maybe, and we've been working together ever since.
yeah.
So yeah,
Oh,
I still do a
welcome.
lot of the accounting, but I don't want to.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I got the
you're
art degree because I didn't want to do any math.
and it's funny because sharing with you both, I'm in the space, and art class was not my favorite, and marketing classes were not my favorite, and what do I do now, right? So
Yeah,
Now
there,
you're
yeah.
marketing,
there,
right? Yeah.
yeah, it's so true. So today we thought we'd talk about a little bit about transparency and collaboration in your agency. What does that mean to you, ladies? Like, it means something different to everybody.
Yeah, for sure. For us, we really saw the need for a better creative agency experience. And what it really boiled down to was having a team that you can collaborate really closely with so that you're
Yeah.
all working as the perfect parts of the machine, so to speak.
Mhm.
Um, we really wanted that collaboration piece so that we were creating a much better product for our clients. And the transparency part really came into play when We've seen other, we've seen our clients go to other agencies, have other projects done. There were big promises made, and very rarely were they delivered on. And we wanted to make sure that our clients, they knew what they were getting, they knew why it was better, and they knew who they were working with. Whether that was Laurie and I or any of the contractors that we use, we wanted them to have access to those people so they could ask the right questions and get the results that they really wanted.
Yeah, and I think, just listening to that, it's a big part of that too, Betsy, the contract itself, where you spell out the statement of work, how
Yep.
specific you are in that. I find too many contracts say, "Oh, we'll build you a website." Well, what does that really
Yeah.
mean?
What does that mean?
I attribute to building a website like going into a restaurant and ordering dinner. If I want that drink, if I want that dessert, I want that meal, I want that side table, that appetizer. We know if we go out, here's your cost. And if you want to drop your cost, you start pulling parts out. I think websites are very similar to that. And I
They
think,
are.
We actually use a car analogy a lot.
yep, that
So
works too.
yeah, it's like you don't know what you're getting until you look under the hood
Yep.
and or start the car or whatever. And because it's so technical as well, like I ha really have zero interest in cars. So I have to trust. I don't. And I was married to a race car driver at one point. But
Oh boy.
I know, right? That's probably why he liked me because I'm like, what? Yeah, I don't know anything about it. But it's, it's so technical that I have to trust the expert. So when I go to whatever dealer or
Yeah.
whatever car maintenance, I have to trust that when they tell me they're not just trying to upcharge me, tell
Yeah.
me something that I don't need because it's not something that I'm going to research necessarily, or because I'm going to have to take a really long time to understand it. So there's that level where you have to trust the experts, and scope creep even in these situations can be a problem. So trying to communicate that up front and then
Yeah.
again having trust in your team so that if scope creep happens, you trust that the people are telling you, honestly and
Mhm.
fairly what you need or what needs to be done.
Yeah.
And I think
Uh,
what's really interesting about the food analogy or the car analogy, whatever analogy you want to use, is that is something that people can understand quality, right? So if I tell you we're going out for a meal
Yeah.
and like a nice meal and we're going to have a nice sit down at a sit down restaurant, that's a different level of quality than I'm like, hey, we're going to get, go to
oh
Chick-fil-A.
yeah. Yeah.
Not that Chick-fil-A isn't good, but there is a difference in the level of quality when you go from something like fast food to a sit down restaurant or a
Fine
Hyundai
dining.
to a Ferrari.
Yeah.
So I think that those analogies are really pertinent because you can go to a cheaper agency, but are you getting the full picture and are you really getting what they're saying they're giving you? Same thing with mechanics. If you don't know anything about cars, you're kind of it's you don't know what you don't know. So one of the things that we pride ourselves on is that education piece
Yep.
up
Yeah.
front and just being really transparent about every part of the every part of the process.
I think a lot of people's problems are with agencies is they read too many of these stupid ads, and I mean stupid ads. Oh, I can build you a website for $1,000 or $800 or $700. And what they haven't figured out is they can't compare that to a $4,000 website.
Right, right.
And part of it is some small business owners don't want to, shall we say, spend that kind of money. So that's part of the issue. So what they'll tolerate. But part of it is they just don't get the market. And,
Right, right.
I think that's the other issue. So if you get in that smaller range, you're probably going to get into more of a templated site. You're probably not going to get in any bells and whistles. You're not going to, there's a multitude of things that aren't going to happen. And then they don't realize it. And then they say, oh, but I didn't get. Well, what did you pay and what did you pay for? Right? That's the other problem.
Exactly. Yeah. And how much, I think Betsy mentioned education. How much education are we supposed to do
Yep.
during that process as well? I mean, are we supposed to have, 4-hour sales calls every time for
No.
$1,000 project? Well, we don't really do $1,000 projects, but um just for the record. But where's that fine line but on their responsibility? But I think it comes down to valuing the same things as well. I mean, we've
Mhm.
spent a really long time. Betsy and I worked together for a really long time, but also the team that we use, the team of contractors have been very consistent for years. So we're not
Yeah.
like changing people all the time. We know where
No.
one person's job starts and the other one stops. We know how to not outdo or undo, override each other's work. We collaborate on fresh ideas and all these things. So our team has been curated for, it's taken a long time. Of that trust and finding people that have the same customer service that we do, the same values that we do, so that we can have that uncompromising quality, because it's just something that we want people that value that in our business.
Exactly.
Now,
And
I
I
got
think,
it.
oh,
Go ahead. No,
I was
you're
going to
good.
say one of the things that I feel like it really comes down to when you are trying to figure out who to go with for a website is having that strong foundation.
Yep.
Um, just like with any, again, back to like the car analogy, if you've got a car that's made out of quality parts, you know it's going to last you a really long time. And with the proper care and maintenance, you know, that car will be with you for 30, 40 years sometimes. And if it's some people only want their car for 10 years, but that's one of the things that we've done in our agency is try to build that really quality foundation. And we've found where that baseline is so that everything that we put out the door, whether it's an $8,000 website or a $40,000 website, they all have that same foundation and it will all stand the test of time. If you don't have that strong foundation, you're going to have quality issues, you're going to have compatibility
Yep.
issues, and it's just not going to last.
It's one of the reasons why, as an agency, you need to define what your tech stack is for building websites and stick with it. And
Yep.
I'm not, and we were talking about that earlier, I'm not a big fan of jumping around. So I can guarantee you, if I'm going into a build, I'm probably going in with the same 8 or 9 plugins right off the top.
Yeah,
So
same.
much, so
Yeah,
so
same.
much so, I've got a template build for Woo sites and not Woo sites. I do both, and I will drop that template in before I even start. I forget it. I'm not, and that's just the way I roll. And it makes life a lot easier
Exactly.
because then I'm not, then I know A's not going to conflict with B, which is not going to conflict
Totally.
with D, and that's a
Yeah.
problem. The other
But also,
question,
Rob, how long, sorry to interrupt real quick, but how long did it
sure,
take you to get that tech stack? A long time, right?
it took
Uh,
me, it took me probably about a year.
I mean,
Probably,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, a long time.
Yeah. I mean, relatively speaking, it's years of experience. So whatever, technology you're talking about, perhaps. Um, I mean, it took a little while to become an expert at it, efficient at it, figure
Yep.
out what's compatible,
Yep.
um, all of that. So, and obviously the more complex a website, is going to expand on that. But yeah, I think that's really important. We do the same thing.
Yep.
The other thing we gotta realize, and we're talking to two great agency ladies here, agencies need to stop charging an hourly rate. And I mean that I believe that. And Betsy's smiling at me because we all have expertise, we all have business expenses, we all have trying to keep the lights on. We've got a multitude of things going on. But honestly, if building websites was easy, everybody would be building them and doing well.
Well, they
And
they try.
they try. And we all know that 90% of the websites that are out there, they don't convert well. They don't know how to build a landing page if your life depended on it. They don't know how to write copy that generates sales, and then website owners look at you and say, "I got 1,000 views, and I'm not getting enough traffic because I'm not getting sales." Not realizing the website that sells is a problem, not the traffic getting to the website, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why when Laurie and I met and we started working together, we had other various people that we collaborated with. We
Yep.
had a copywriter, we had an SEO expert, and we found more and more that we were pulling all of those expertise in on these projects, and it was creating
Mm,
again, that much better foundation. And you don't need all the bells and whistles for every single website. But there are
yep.
some really key things that you have to start with. And the marketing, the website, the branding, all of that has to work in tandem for you to be successful. And there's
100%.
yeah, and that was just one of the things that drew us to working a lot more together because Lori is really great at the user experience and she has a great eye for design, but she's not formally trained like I am and have the experience in the design side of things, whereas I'm hopeless in the back end of WordPress. Like
No, you're not.
I can click around and break some things, but
No.
I don't know that side of it. So our again, like our powers combined do a lot better for the client in the long run.
Yep.
And you can have the stunning design, but if the website's not working, it doesn't do you any good, and vice versa. If you've got a really crappy brand and your website looks like it was built in 1982, then that's a
Yeah.
trust issue. Like people are like, they haven't updated their website since, the
Yeah.
internet first began.
Yeah.
Um, so
Well,
you got to have all the pieces working together.
we also are a little bit weary of the one stop shop or the one person that says that they can do it all. Like, oh, like I know, like Betsy's saying that I am not, I might have a good eye and you can't really teach taste. I don't know, maybe you can, but I don't know. I guess it's subjective. But the one person that's like, oh, I can do SEO and I can do marketing and I can design it and I can build it. It's like, hold up, because each one of those is a very distinct expertise. Do I know a lot
Mhm.
about it? Of course I do. Could I make something look okay? Yeah. But again, there's a lot of strategy and research and all of those things that go behind all of those things. And I think people don't really understand how much complexity goes into it until you go through the journey, or at least go through the journey with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
if you're a
think
jack
all,
of all trades, you're a master of none, right?
Yeah.
yeah, I think you're better off sticking at what you're really good at. I've
Yep.
said that for years, and if you're not good at it, hire somebody.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yep.
Um, when you look for a contractor, are you typically dealing with them in North America, out of North America? What do you ladies prefer?
Yeah. So far, I believe all of our contractors are based in the United States. There might be a couple that are overseas.
Okay.
But we've gotten really fortunate over the years. We have a really great network of other business owners, and it just keeps expanding, which is great. So if we need, a videographer, which we needed a few weeks ago, I reached out to my network and was like, hey guys, I need a really solid videographer. Can you help me out? So it's a little bit of referral network. But we love that because then these people are vetted.
Well, and we make them accessible also. And we are kind of
Mhm.
going back to that transparency thing. Like we tell our clients, we're not just saying that Betsy and I are doing it or charging our prices and then not being transparent about who they're working with. And I think it is important for people to know who you're working with, and our team is accessible. So I mean, and this just might be a strategy. I mean, some instances it might be best to have a point of contact depending on what the client wants as a
Yeah.
project manager, and that's fine. So I understand that it might be a client preference. But most of our clients, and they know, like so and so is the copywriter, so and so is doing the marketing or SEO or whatever. So
Yeah.
they're clear and they have direct access to our team because it's just the most efficient. We're not spinning wheels. There's no what is telephone lost in translation, you
Right.
know, messaging or anything like that. So it really makes the project more seamless. And it makes the whole team feel like they're part of something greater and actually care about the success of a project more when everybody's collaborative and has a piece in it. That's what
Yeah.
we feel like.
No, I
Yeah.
agree.
And
Which one
I,
of you is the project manager in the group? I have to ask.
oh,
Oh,
me is not it.
Me.
yeah.
Yep. I
I've got that
really,
creative brain. I'm not
I
I'm better than most creatives, but still not as organized as Lori.
well, I'm the creative developer. So I'm actually a very right and left brain. Like I can
yeah.
sit here and
So
focus
am
on
I.
code all day, but I actually I'm an extrovert, so I will go out and meet people and make friends and know their
So am
dogs'
I.
names. And yeah, like I'll know everything about everybody and I follow up with people. And so
And
I'm
then she
really
puts it all in a spreadsheet.
and I put it all in a spreadsheet. I love spreadsheets. So yeah, that's funny. So yeah, I think that's another way that Betsy and I balance each other well.
Yeah.
So, and I've created this whole, I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole, but this is where my left brain got geeky. I created this whole project management system that really helps with the communication and automate
Yeah.
the processes between what pages are we optimizing? What pages are we custom designing? Who's doing it? What stage is it in? And I know that sounds like 101, but when you
Yeah.
don't have a collaborative team, I know that, years ago when we started and I was building the websites and I would ask the SEO person, like, where's the copy? Has it been optimized yet? Are we doing it on the Google Doc? Are we doing it on site? Is it complete? All these things. And they know what's going on. And I'm expected to create miracles and put it together. And usually by the time it would come to me, And not that I'm not doing things and setting the foundation in the meantime. I'm talking about the actual content and layout. It was a mess. So I created this really, really detailed process for project management that
Yeah.
I think is awesome, but we don't need it on every project. And it's a lot. So it's kind of an evolution, something I'm always working on. Why do you ask?
Uh, Pardon?
Why do you ask about who's project
I
managing?
was just curious.
Oh,
I actually have a PMI project management international designation, so I know
Oh,
what's
nice.
involved in it. I did mine when I was in healthcare in an
hmm.
IT specialty. So IT web, it's marketing is pretty similar, but it's a lot of work. And I think one of the biggest things about project management that most people don't get in collaboration or in any big project is how much work is involved and how much detail needs to go into it. They don't realize. I think it's less important of the tool, more important of the process, personally.
Yep.
But
Yep.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, I would
we
agree.
I'll tell a story. We used to have I worked for an old style CTO at one time. And if you know anything about corporate project management, everybody loves Microsoft Project. Yeah. And I and he had a way he liked his reports to spit out on Monday. So you'd have to take your project plans, which are real project plans, and do what I call bastardize them to make them look like the way the CTO wanted his reports. So you
Sounds
would
like
have
Office Space.
Oh,
Yeah.
basically, yes. You would have one copy you submitted that made the report look the way you wanted, and one that was the real working copy. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Make him
So,
happy.
so the biggest joke was all the project leaders on Friday afternoons, you could never find them. Good luck booking any of us into a meeting because my calendar had this standard line in Friday afternoon saying fixed project plan to be submitted at 9 a.m. on Monday. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
was like that every week. So if you ever needed a project leader in this particular hospital on a Friday, you could probably find them at their desk. They weren't hard to find, let me tell you.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. Yeah, I've
Yeah,
project managed large overseas teams and as well and things like
yeah,
that with Jira and all of that. I've been contracted just as a project manager before because I'm able to speak to the website and I can
yeah,
help translate
yeah,
just any communication between the parties.
yeah.
So yeah, project management is no joke.
No, it's not. Um, do you ladies have a tool you use for communication, like on the fly, or do you avoid that like the plague?
Um,
We typically don't use an on-the-fly communication tool with our clients.
No,
We
I
like to
meant
have,
with your meant more with your team than
yeah. So Laurie and I have been faithful Skype users for many years.
I
So
know.
what are you gonna do
We don't
now?
know. We
It's
don't
our
know yet.
secret.
We're
I
actually kind
know.
of upset about it. But
It's
for
our
a lot of our
secret hiding
contractors,
place.
yeah, that is our hiding place.
Yeah.
The tool that we use for our contractors is just GChat. Everybody's got it. It's easy to use. So that's one that we use a lot, and it allows us to connect with Google Drive, all,
Yeah.
Docs and all that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
that's our system.
Yeah,
So
for
was
project management, we use Asana for project management though.
yeah.
Like, and
Yeah.
have the big thing where we have all the rules and automations and everything in there. So for project management, that's what we use with a
And
combination of other Google tools and things, of course.
And
Do
on
you bu-
our, I think when oh, kind of going back to that transparency piece, we always allow our clients to have access to our Asana project management boards
That was my
for
question.
their project.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
for their project, so that they can see where we're at in the process and what we're waiting on them for, or what maybe is holding things up on our end if there is something. So it
Mm.
keeps that line of communication open. They can see at every point in the project what's going on.
Well,
So I
and
have
you
to
won't find a prettier Asana thing. Our Asana board, everything we do is pretty, okay? It has to be pretty and branded. So our Asana's got photos. We have for clients how-to descriptions. We've got
oh
all the
good.
instructions in there. We like to spell everything out as easily as possible.
The clients actually look at the Asana project as a whole, or do most of them not look at it? I have to ask.
It kind
Clients?
of depends. Yeah, we've got some that are faithful users. They're in there plugging away, getting us what we need. Others want to be more hands off. We can adapt our process to either one. We just like to have it as an option if they're wanting to get in there and get their hands dirty.
Mm, mm. Finding a new tool for Skype. Oh, changes, changes,
I
changes.
know.
Oh, I know.
You could break down and go to Teams, but that wouldn't be my choice.
I know. I
Yeah,
haven't
it's
played with
definitely
it.
not mine.
I know. But I don't, yeah, we got to figure it out. I don't want to bad talk other platforms, but I don't like, there's a lot of other platforms that I just don't like at
I
all.
know.
So
Skype
I
has
don't
the best
know.
emojis.
Yeah.
Skype has
Let's
the best
be
emoji.
real.
You could actually see it coming because about 3 years ago, Skype forced all their business users to. Skype had
Yep.
a Skype for Business allowed
Microsoft.
you to
Yeah.
host phone numbers, and then they forced all that into Teams. And once that happened, it was days are numbered. And I just know there's horror stories with Teams. My partner is a receptionist and they manage all their phone lines in Teams. And that is just when it works great. When it doesn't work, all I can say is good luck.
Just like any
Yeah.
technology, when it works great, it works great.
Yep. Yeah, it's true. So you guys run your agency all with Google Suite pretty well. I would
Hmm.
take it your emails are probably Google emails, I would assume.
Yep.
I
Yep.
It's interesting when you say that. I run my agency all of the Google Suite pretty well with one exception, and that is my email. I've gone elsewhere for email than Google. So,
Really?
yeah, I went to an Australian company called Fastmail about 3 years ago and
Oh
never
yeah.
looked back. They're
Nice.
privacy based email. They do a really good job. Cost is comparative. I think a
Interesting. But you use all the G Suite or Workspace tools,
yep,
Drive and everything.
and Gemini to boot is my AI tool. Yep, I
Nice.
do. I am on a Pixel phone, so Gemini is an ideal companion for that. I
Nice.
don't think, and I'll be honest with you, like when you get into AI, you start playing with other tools like Copilot and stuff. I've got Copilot too because I have Office, but what I'll say is I don't find them as accurate as Gemini. The only one close to Gemini is probably ChatGPT or Perplexity, in my opinion. So,
Yeah.
Rob, what are your thoughts on transparency with when it comes to AI?
wow.
Ah,
Um, Depends on what it is. So, if it's logos and stuff, not as much, but I'll tell clients that we're pulling stuff out AI, and if you want it written, handwritten, this is what your cost is. I've done that. Where I've
Mhm.
said, okay, if you don't want me to use AI, that's okay, but then your cost goes up. So I'm very upfront about it.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's the key. I
yeah.
think you got to be careful, especially where copyrights are involved. That's my biggest concern with AI. And there's now some AI tools. I don't know if you ladies have heard this. Gemini will actually pull watermarks out of the background of photos now. Uh-huh.
Oh. Yeah,
Oh,
that's kind of a
huh.
no-no.
That's a problem, especially when you get clients that insist on borrowing Getty images.
Wow. Betsy does
Yep.
photography also, so and I mean obviously is sensitive towards copyright
Yeah.
as because her
I
That's
work
why.
is so
I
unique.
I once had a photo stolen by a fairly large manufacturer and they posted it as their own and got, I don't know, probably 100,000 some odd hits. And like that's credibility and
I had
brand
a client.
awareness. And I mean that and that's all gone
Yeah,
because they couldn't be bothered to tag me or, they cropped out the little watermark I had on it. And that's just dirty business practice.
Yeah.
I had a client a couple years ago pull a Getty image photo, and I don't know if anybody knows, Getty Images have a team of patent trolls that scour the internet to protect their brand.
Yeah.
And they
Yep.
basically got a demand for $2,000 and it read, and if you don't pay the demand, we'll sue you. And the client came back to me and said, what do I do? And I said, the first thing you do is you pay it. The second thing you do is you get in writing the license that you can continue to use it. And the third thing is you listen to me and never do it again. I already told you not to do it.
Yep.
And it's an
Yeah.
expensive lesson. And they're like, but I said, because if Getty takes you to court, you're going to be dealing with triple that and court fees. So good luck.
Totally. Yep.
And I think, with the more and more usage of AI, a lot of
Yep.
that is coming to light. It's easier to do your scans and your scrapes of the websites and really the internet as a whole. Font licensing is a big one as well. There's a
Yep.
lot of places that will sell bootleg or give away bootleg versions of really expensive fonts. And just because it's available does not mean it's okay to use. So that's one of the biggest
No.
things that I try to teach my clients. We have a subscription to Envato Elements,
Yeah, so do
and
I.
that tool, that subscription has been worth its weight in gold for
Mm-hmm.
us
Yep.
because
Yep.
we can license images, license fonts. It's a forever license. Even if
Yep.
I cancel my subscription, my clients are covered. I don't have any problems with them coming to me and saying, I want to use this watermarked image from Getty or iStock. I can say, get on Envato, find whatever you want, and I'll license it for you.
No,
So that's
no,
just one of the ways.
yeah. And AI
Go
is
ahead.
AI is getting interesting too, because the other thing with AI is, do you know AI will actually search YouTube videos and the contents of podcasts to find out content?
Yep.
So, as an experiment, I took my partner's name
Huh.
last Thursday and plumped it in. And she is, so what I'll tell you is she's only on Instagram, Facebook. Those are the primary two spots. But she doesn't have the web presence we do. So if you threw my name in or Laurie's name in or your name in, stuff's going to come up. And for fun, I took her name and threw it into Gemini last week and said, tell me a bit about her. And it actually spit out stuff from one of my podcasts that I had mentioned in Gemini.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But
It's
AI will
really,
do.
AI is going to change the way things are happening on the internet, and you just can't get away with what you used to be able to get away with.
Well,
No.
what so far where we are, and I know this is obviously kind of an ongoing topic really that probably
Sure.
comes up in every, episode of yours. But I think it's AI, but it's also more the people not knowing. So kind of like we were talking
Yep.
about education,
Yeah,
and how to
100%.
educate people. Like you can say, and I'll kind of use a logo as an example, and I don't want to speak for Betsy, but you can get a logo, right? And you might
Yeah.
think it looks good. But do you know how to act? Do you know the things that you need to ask it? Do you have the eye? Do you have the psychology behind it? Do you have the research behind it? Do you have your target audience behind it? Do you have all these things
Yep.
that Betsy's going to customize and walk through? And the website is the same thing, whether it's a website or a
I get
logo
it.
or whatever,
Yep.
and I think that's the risk right now is AI alone, but more the people thinking that's good enough when it's
I
not.
I so agree with you. So one of the things I do for the show is, and you've both seen my logo, I'm sure, for the show, I do not have a picture of me on that show. And I've had a million and one questions saying, why? Tell you why. I'm a 57-year-old white Canadian male. And that will turn off so many cultures. And I'm not trying to turn this into a racial podcast, but the reality of it all is I'm not a minority. I'm not this. I'm not that. And frankly, I'd rather somebody just hear the show and if they want to go digging, go digging. I'm okay with that.
Mhm.
But I don't think I actually believe putting a picture on a logo or on a business card, and I could be wrong. I personally believe that actually can work to your detriment, not your advantage sometimes.
Yeah. And it's also your prerogative. You can do whatever you want, right?
Yeah.
But it
And
can.
there's pictures of me on my website and my personal site and all over the place. And so if somebody wants to find it, they'll find it. But I tend not to put it on my logo, my podcast logo. And there's two schools of thought in podcasting. Some people say put on, some people say put on, put it off. I'd rather not put it on, and then I don't have to get into the whole perception, and somebody will go listen to the show and then make a decision or watch the show. That's
The hard part about that too is people are going to judge and perceive no matter what, whether
yep,
you're
that's right.
young, they're going to young, old, male, female, whatever it is, people are going to
Mhm.
have their preconceived perceptions, their experiences. Like, some people are like, I'm never going to date a John again. Oh, really? You're just going to judge every John out there, So it's like, and people just do that. It doesn't make sense, but they do
Yeah,
that. So it's impossible to overcome all of that, but we can try to
Mm.
be as authentic as we can and represent ourselves how we want to be.
yeah.
And I
I
think
some
you could, whether you're adding an image or not adding an image, whether you're using the color yellow or blue or green,
Yep.
those things are all the perceptions are going to be different from human to human. There is kind of a blanket psychology that you can apply, but like Lori said, if somebody has a really bad experience with the color green, they might just not like things that are green.
Mhm.
And that's not anything that you can really control. You can do your best to sort of create something that's going to appeal to as many people as possible, but typography, color, an image of your face. They're all things that they're subjective.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's fun. It's funny. We were talking about logos, Betsy, and I think some of the most successful logos in history are simple. And I think
They
right
are.
away, McDonald's,
Tar-
Coca-Cola,
Target.
they, Target, yeah, they come to mind. They're not difficult logos at all. Like
Yeah.
they're and
I
sometimes
wonder what the
simplicity.
It's
evolution
all
of
about
those. Yeah.
it's all about cramming meaning into a really small space.
Yep.
And there's simple ways to do that, and there's really complex ways to do it. And one of the things that I always try to teach my clients when I'm designing logos for them and I do my little logo presentation is you want it to be a little bit ambiguous. You want people to be able to make their own interpretations. Like if you think
Yep.
about the
Yep.
Nike swoosh logo, that's about movement. There's an upward force there. It looks like it's swift and fast and sleek and sexy. And a lot of people they might see those same things, but there might be some other symbolism in there that appeals to somebody else that maybe I didn't think of. So when you make your logo so literal, like if it's your face, that's very literal. There is no interpretation there. That is just Rob. Um, you know, um,
Thanks.
then 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 there's no
Yeah.
connection or no way
Yeah.
to, like you said, you might be alienating people if they see a non-minority middle-aged white guy,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
You know what's
But
interesting about that, Bets? I never thought, and this just kind of occurred to me, but like, let's say you do take a Target logo. It's funny. It's like, tell me your life story in a paragraph. And it's like, how on earth can I do that, right? But it is funny. Like, if you take a Target logo, could somebody also be like, really? Two circles, and that's what they put together? Like it almost could be, you know, what am I trying to say? Where it's like harder, even though there's so much thought behind it and they know
yeah.
simplicity is better, but instead it could almost, I don't want to say backfire, but it's like there's such a big brand now, but that must be a
Yeah.
challenge
Right.
when someone's
Well,
new, you know?
and it can be, I think, at least with the degree that I got, we were
Yeah.
drilled into finding the why. And
Yeah.
Yep.
you could weave a good story. Like I could put a polka dot up on the wall and say, this is the logo that I came up with. And if I wove a good enough story, my
Yeah.
professor would be like, okay, like at least you put some thought into it. It's wrong, but you at least put some thought into it.
Yeah.
One
That's
of the things that I don't know that I'll ever forget is I was at the Dallas Museum of Art. There was a Jackson Pollock hanging on the wall, and of course it's paint splatter. Like that's what his style is.
yeah.
And there was this sweet little old lady, I think with her grandson or something there, and he was kind of running around and looking at everything, and she walks over to this Jackson Pollock and she goes, "I could have done that." And I died laughing, like
Yeah,
inside. I
that's so
tried not
funny.
to laugh at her, but she's not wrong. She probably does have the capability to do that, but one of the most powerful things ever said happened next. There was some other guy standing there and he goes, "Yeah, but you didn't." And I thought, "Oh," I was like, I actually really love that because at least
Yeah.
he tried. He's doing something right. Like yeah, you could have
Yeah.
done that. You could have put two
You
circles
cut,
together,
but you
but
tried.
you didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
And
the
that
problem
that
with,
moment will just forever be
And you didn't
emblazoned in
repeat,
my brain.
and you didn't repeatedly. That's a really good lesson, though,
Yeah,
Yeah, you're right.
the problem with
exactly.
logos and art and stuff like that, creative stuff. It's all up to interpretation, right? And
Yeah.
I said to somebody, we're going to an Andy Warhol exhibit in
Oh,
about two
cool.
weeks. He,
Cool.
one of the galleries in Toronto is doing a show of his painting, and I said to somebody who's going, they said that's not him. And I said, what do you mean that's not him? It's all up to interpretation. What are
Yep.
you thinking of art? Mona Lisa? That doesn't interest me. Modern art?
Yeah.
That's a different story. Um,
Yeah.
you
Can
were
I
taught,
interject something too, real quick,
sure,
Rob?
of course.
The other thing that I always say too is a lot of times people try to build websites or brands where it's all about them, right?
Yep.
And this is kind of where user experience comes in.
Yes,
Like, this is what I
yes.
do. This is how I want to represent. This is what I want to say. This is how I want to spell it. That,
Wrong.
whatever. Exactly. And
Yeah.
so we're always that's kind of the one of the very early things that we do is, well, even a logo or whatever, how is that going to resonate
Yep.
with your people? Is it going to relate? Because we're really doing it to get users or
Yep.
leads or sales or whatever. We're not
Yep.
doing it just to splash. And yes, you need credibility. I'm not saying that, and you need to explain your services, but you get my point. It's like we really have to transition a lot
Yep.
in the web dev and the content and the whole
Mhm.
package that it's really for your users to convert.
You need to start thinking about what they want, not what
Yep.
you want. And that's
Yep.
the
Exactly.
hardest thing to tell a business owner is
Yep.
what do they want to see from you, not
Yep.
what
Yeah.
you want to feed them. Because if you give them what they want, they'll buy. If you don't give them what they want, there's no buying. I redid a major e-commerce site
Mm.
recently for a one of my best friends who's a jewelry store. And this website has, if you're ready to laugh, 3,000 products on it. That's what they
Ooh.
launched with. Yeah, who is not the word. Now, what we did with this one was something different before we launched, because we were a bit at odds about a couple things. And I said, okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to drag 10 of your favorite customers in, and I want them to play with it for an hour and tell me.
Yep.
And believe it or not,
An hour,
they,
they did that.
they did that. Well, they also offered them a discount. That's it,
Of course.
offered them 20% off their next order, drag them in here. They'll come in.
Wonderful.
They,
UX 101.
and,
Right.
and, and they looked at me and said, how did you know? And I said, just been down this road before. You gotta give people what they want.
Yeah. And that's a powerful tool. People forget that their existing customer base is one
Yep.
of the best places to get data.
Yep.
One of the tactics that Laurie and I will use when a business owner that we're working with maybe has a question about the way to approach something, we're like, why don't you just ask your clients? Like, why don't you just ask the question?
Well,
Like, send them a survey or
yeah.
personalize an email to like your top 10, repeat customers. And sometimes you don't get a response, but sometimes you get actual gold. It's
Yep.
information that you're not going to get from any analytics site or any other tool. It is real
That's
human
right.
experience, and that's the best data you can get.
Well, and we're surprised how infrequently people ask for that feedback. And so
Yeah.
Betsy and I've created a form that has the same questions where you can send it out, two forms, internally to your team, but they're
Yep.
UX user experience questions, so kind of internally to your team, and then also externally to your
Good idea.
users to see how in alignment. So the questions are slightly different but the same because I want to see how in line what the company thinks the users want versus what the users actually want and how in line they are. So I'll customize that and send that
Yep.
out to clients. Yeah, and it's pretty eye-opening.
Yep. The other thing is too is, and it's marketing 101. Ask your clients for reviews.
Yep.
And my favorite tactic is, especially in the retail, especially when they're buying stuff, and especially go back to jewelry store, they're at the point that every piece of custom work that goes out, they look at the customer and say, how do you like it? Oh, we love it. Great. Will you say that on a 20-second video shot? Sure. And you know what? They'll post those unedited. They won't even edit them. They'll just post the real posts
That's awesome.
on
Yeah,
Instagram. And the traffic they generate is
that's great.
unreal. So there's ways to conceptualize, right? You just gotta figure out how to do it.
And ask for it.
Um, yeah, and ask
Right.
for it. So kind of wrapping up a bit. If you had three things that you had to say to an agency to or anybody else to do the transparency, what would they be?
If we had to say something to another agency,
Yeah, or your customers, how you manage transparency, how what would those three things be?
I think number one, at least on my list, is probably on Laurie's list too, is communication. It
Yep.
seems very plebeian, very basic, but not enough times where people asking the right questions or saying what they really mean. One of the
Mhm.
things that I do in my initial interview when I'm building brands for companies or business owners is you have to tell me if you truly like it or not. Like you can't hold
Yep.
back, no hold barred. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I have been, lined up against the wall with my fellow students in college and yelled at because nobody had good work
Oh,
that day.
oh my God.
So it's part of the process, and it's that communication piece and being really, really authentic with your communication. So that would
Yeah.
be my number one.
I
I'm gonna
think,
let
yeah,
Laurie?
Lori do number
that's
two.
great. Yeah, I'll do number two. I think it's trust. People don't want to think they're getting BS'd, right? They want to, if they're going to pay you, especially if they're going to pay you a lot of money, they have to trust you. And tr part of that transparency
Yep.
comes with trust. And then along with that trust builds a long-term relationship. We're not in it just to like build you something and forget about it.
Yep.
Like we
Yep.
want to gather data, eh, change it over time, work on that long-term marketing strategy, things like that. So without trust, I don't think you can have a long-term relationship, and without transparency, you can't have
You
trust.
can't have
So,
trust.
yeah, so that would be my number two and or three because it kind of goes in hand with long-term relationships. But I guess if I was to come up with a number three, going back to project management and human connection, that to me is why I do this. I really enjoy working with my clients. I enjoy people.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know how to not be transparent. Sometimes I'm not the best salesperson because
Me neither.
yeah.
Me neither.
Um, yeah,
Okay.
and just because I want to be my authentic self, and
Yeah.
I think that transparency. I mean, I wear my heart on my sleeve, and we Betsy and I will tell you how it is and what we think. But
And
we do think that's important.
I think my answer for number three would really be setting expectations.
Yeah.
Um, Lori and I have seen too many clients go to these big box agencies and get sold a promise that again is not kept, or they're frustrated because they don't have a process to follow, or they don't have a proven system that they use. And we had a client spend $100,000 on a website, and 6 months later, it was broken beyond repair.
Nothing
Um,
integrated. Yeah,
Nothing
new.
integrated. It was all custom coded. They couldn't work on it. And we hate that for them. Like we feel that pain along with them. And so then they
Yeah.
they come to us and they're burned. And we don't want to make those big promises if we don't think we can keep them. We try to set really clear expectations with our clients so that they know what they're getting, they know where we're going with it, and nobody's heart is broken, right? Like we
Yes.
don't want to lead you down a path where we're like, oh yeah, we can do that. We can make you the next Amazon if that's not the truth.
Yeah,
We
That's
can
true.
certainly take some stair steps to get there, but it's
not
really
even
all about setting those expectations up front.
not even just the big box agencies, the other side of it also, the small agencies that are going to promise because they want the job, right? They're going to
Hmm.
promise that they can do blah,
Yep.
blah, 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 when they really can't. They're not really being transparent about what their strengths are. So yeah,
So,
on all levels, we think it's really important.
so true. So true. Well said too. If somebody wants to get a hold of your agency, how is the best way?
Yeah. Our website is Pursu .agency. Very simple. There is no .com, it's just .agency. So that's probably going to be one of the fastest ways to get a hold of us, but we're also on Instagram and Facebook at Pursue Agency. No E on Pursue, just
Yep.
Yeah.
We couldn't decide on a name, so we just ended all verbs, nouns, whatever,
P-U-R-S-U.
Pursu.
That's
And
Our
it.
our
Rob, the
name,
tagline. Go ahead.
oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say the tagline too that we like to ask people up front is like, what will you pursue? And the other part of it is how can we help you get there? And so whether it's
I like that.
business related or personal, maybe somebody wants freedom. Well, how can we help you get there? Maybe they want.
Oh,
Yeah.
did we
Oh,
lose her?
Great.
Strategy to
Well,
get you
building.
there. So we like the action.
Oh, you cut out a little bit, Laurie.
Oh, I did?
Yeah, it's okay.
It's
Oh,
okay.
I don't know
Well,
when,
Yeah,
but
our entire
Is it-
brand and business philosophy is just based on the idea of the pursuit. And we think that resonates with a lot of business owners because they're always pursuing something better, something more meaningful, whether that's creating a legacy for their family or creating a better work-life balance for themselves, like Laurie said.
yeah,
Just you're always in pursuit. There's always the next thing. You're
yeah.
never finished, and we like to be along for the ride because we like those long-term relationships. So all about
I, lo-
pursuit.
I love that. Laurie, Betsy, thanks so much for joining me. I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom, and
thank
you both
you.
have a wonderful day.
Yeah, you
Thanks.
too,
Thanks for
Rob. Thanks
having
for having
us.
us.
This podcast has been brought to you by Stunning Digital Marketing, your digital marketing concierge to help the business owner put all his pieces together, whether it's email marketing, WordPress security, WordPress design and development, PPC, and more. Text Stunning Digital Marketing for all your digital marketing needs today. A very special thank you to Laurie and Betsy for joining me on this edition of the SDM. The SDM show is dedicated to my late father, Bruce Cairns. Dad, I miss you very much every day. My mother, Ann Cairns, who's still doing really well and is an inspiration. And of course, Tiz Maroney. And Tiz, I know I've said it, but thank you so much for all the inspiration you give me every day.